Yeah. No danger of that. If I'm guilty of anything, it's skimming so quickly that I've got to go back and dig for it. But one of the things I'm hoping is I'm usually pretty good with, I saw that somewhere. I think it was over here, So I'm hoping that I can kind of lean on that a little bit. But
I mean, if you're good at that kind of stuff, then I think that's a good attribute to have going into this thing. So,
yeah. So when you get done with your, if you clear your first scenario and your third scenario in 90 minutes or something, that half hour is in the bank. You can use it towards the next scenario, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But don't. If that happens, I just like acknowledge it, then ignore it, and then still keep an eye on the clock, because you before you know it, like you're back. Like I think in the first scenario that I'd done on the last attempt, I'd done like the first scenario in like an hour and a half, and that's why I thought it was like cruising.
Mm-hmm.
But then I still finished with like 2 or 3 minutes left before lunch.
Oh.
And I wasn't like dwelling on questions. I was only thinking. And some scenarios are bigger than others, or can be. Like I don't know what it's like now, but that's certainly. But to say that it could be between 25 to 35 questions is what I think the official.
Yeah.
The official thing is, but
okay.
I never counted the amount of questions or anything. I was just like, please end soon, all the way through it. So.
I think I'll be drinking beer thinking of exactly that on Wednesday night. So.
Yeah.
Man.
So, looking through my notes to see if there's anything else. Is there any other like specific questions just now before I go on?
Yeah, I had one more. So one of the things that I'm worried about is when I finish a scenario, dwelling on the scenario I just finished, right? Did you find any difficulty in letting go and just moving forward?
I did in my first couple of attempts, but I think it was like, overall, I was overwhelmed a bit without.
Okay.
Well, I didn't want to admit it at the time, but I think I was. And then there was obviously what I talked about earlier. I actually had some work to do when I done the thing that I advised to you guys. When I was honest with myself, I had some work to do on some of like the tech, and I think like when you don't know the tech like to the correct level, and then say you get like EIGRP in scenario 1 and EIGRP in scenario 4, because like 8 hours is still a pretty compressed period, and would you go and speak to 4 global enterprise customers about in-depth information on their network in one day at work? Probably not.
No.
So I think it's just like I might be wrong, but I think like getting confused between scenarios is more going to be human element rather than on a person by person basis. I think there's going to be an element of that regardless, but I think like actually detaching from the scenario, like I mean after the exam you're like, oh, is that scenario or that scenario? Like you just can't remember because there's so much going on. Like, you know what I mean? You can remember kind of like high level and stuff like that, but you just almost like get mental block after the exam. But during the exam, I suppose it depends on like your own like how you are yourself and how tired you are, if you eat at lunchtime. But I don't think it's too bad to like when you start the scenario. So if I go from scenario 1 to 2, you're just like, you're not going to be like on question 3 or 4 or 5, like, oh, was that this scenario or scenario 1? I think it's like later on in the scenario for something kind of similar to a previous scenario, or later on in the day when you start getting a bit fatigued because you've been sitting in front of complex issues for like 6 or 7 hours by that point. That's when you might suffer a bit from that. But I wouldn't go in and think. Don't go in with a mindset and think, oh, I might get confused. Just go in and take it. Take everything at face value, and just don't go in with any preconceived notions about I might get confused about this, or this might happen, or whatever. Just be mindful of what I've told you and everybody else is telling you, and Cisco are telling you the CCDE stuff, and then just go in and do it, and don't try and remove emotion completely from that 8 hours.
Yeah, I've heard from a few people that the exam gives you the answers, that the answers are in there. You've just got to be smart enough to, not put your own answers in there or make them more important than the answers you're being given. Yeah.
Like, one of the things Jeremy said to us, like, 'cause that was another thing, I was like, well, people aren't going to pick, like, a VPLS over an L3 VPN, are they? And then he's like,
Sorry, what was
We lost you, Malcolm. Come back.
Still here?
Yeah, we
hear me now?
Yep,
yeah.
I hear you.
Sorry, I'm on some dodgy Wi-Fi in a hotel, so. So I think, like, if you get a question, right, and it's like, what's cheaper, VPLS or MPLS L3 VPN, and you say, oh, well, VPLS is cheaper, L3 VPN is more expensive, and you just start making up this story in your head, like, because you need to pay for QoS and BGP peering, and like, I want multiple VPNs, whereas if I've got VPLS, I can just add like a new tag and all that. If you start doing that, you're going to get stuff wrong. Like, it's not real life. And what Jeremy always said is, like, just because, like, you think something is easier because you've done it and you thought it was easier or more complex. So it's like what's more cost effective, or what's faster to deploy? And you're like, well, like, BGP is faster to deploy for me, but like OSPF might be faster to deploy for you. But that's like because I might have worked with BGP more than you, and this vice versa with OSPF, and that's real life, which doesn't really matter here. What matters is they'll say something like, again, just completely making this up, but like, we support OSPF PE to CE, and then provider 2 says, we don't support OSPF PE to CE, but we could do that on a custom basis, it'll have like a longer lead time, but it won't even be as, probably as explicit as that. It'll be wrapped up in some mumbo jumbo text in the middle of like a document, probably. So so don't make assumptions based on like again, like Russ White always says, like, read the question, and if you read the question and you can't find the answer, then read the question. So that's coming from the guy, like, the guy that created the exam, but albeit he's not like developed it for years, but that was very much the premise of it when it was invented.
Yeah, I guess Jeremy was telling us it used to be back when he was involved that the test was, what would Russ White do?
Yeah.
That's interesting. So knowing that we've got the test here in, what is it, 5 days?
5 days.
Oh, 5 days.
You're not helping, Mike.
What's that? What's that?
You said like, yeah, 5 days, and I was like, you're not helping, dude.
David won't be able to go back to sleep now.
Sorry, David.
Yeah, most probably. Well, no.
David doesn't sleep, right? David doesn't sleep. But, knowing that we've got, 5 days, 4 days in a wake up here, I think the approach that we're generally taking, and it varies guy to guy, but we've been kind of working together as a small group here, is that we're really spending, we're trying to get our endurance up by going through multiple scenarios a day together, or some combination of together and apart, where we're certainly listening to the Jeremy Philibin recordings as he goes through his scenarios, revisiting the Martin Dugan scenarios. Both those groups of scenarios seem to be the ones everybody tells us, like, Jeremy's are great for the level, and Martin's are great for kind of the stretch, right? For getting you, getting you over prepared for the complexity that you might be involved with, and helping you pick speed up. We're spending time with that. Certainly kind of, I personally have to do some, just understanding the diagrams and knowing how I get tripped up on those. I need to go through, some of the more commonly, hit scenarios that I keep getting tripped up on, like the different, configuration tasks or roles that are served when you're doing the inner AS options, or when you're doing, when you're doing different route reflector design, stuff like that. Are there any other things that you think were really useful in the last few days as you prepped, other than getting good sleep and kind of doing what we're doing?
I will consider that one.
I think like in being serious, David, I know you're like kind of joking, but one of my biggest downfalls for my first couple of attempts was definitely my study. I guess it depends on your home life and stuff as well. So I've got like 2 kids now, but for the majority of like my CCDE first year, 18 months, maybe about, first year and a bit. So first year and a few months. So I don't know, 14, 15 months. I had like one kid, and I made it like a thing that, I was like studying like more or less every night, but it was like every night at like, right, when like the kids are away to bed and the wife's away to bed, so it's like between 9 and 10 o'clock at night when they're both away, that's when I started studying through the week, in the weekdays, and then that would go on to like 1 a.m. and that's after like where I worked. I had a 2-hour commute each way, so I was getting up like 6 a.m, leaving the house at 7 a.m, getting home at 7 p.m, and then, or later, but typically between 7 and 7:30, having my dinner, sitting in like the living room with the family, but all I was thinking about was the CCDE. I was like, when they go to bed, I'm going to study. Like even when I'm sitting for that hour and a half, having my dinner and that, and then they go upstairs, and then it's like 1 a.m, and then, so I'm like operating on like 5 hours sleep through every day, more or less, or at least 3 days a week. And then when it got closer to the exam time, it was even worse, because I was like trying to work things out, and then that, in contrast, when I passed, I still wasn't sleeping like 8 hours every night, but I was like making sure like I was sleeping, because I had probably like a year where I was doing that cycle, like constantly, but it's almost like your body becomes immune to it, or it feels like your body becomes immune to it, but it's not good. Like, and then you speak to some of the guys that passed, and they're like, I put on, like, I'm not like a big guy, but I put on, like, I was like 12 stone or something when I started studying for it, and then I was like 13. I was never going to the gym. I was like never playing football or soccer, as I call it. I was never doing anything apart from the CCDE. I was seeing my family for an hour and a half a day, like in the week, and I was like, that's not the right way to do it, in my opinion, because I was trying to compress it, and that's another reason, but pretty sure why I had a couple of failed attempts.
Okay.
So it's like I started studying in like May 2015. I sat the practical, the written in June and failed it, and then early July and passed it, and I made my first attempt in November that year. So 6 months after I started studying for the CCDE, I attempted the exam, and it was partly pressure from my work, who were trying to go from silver to gold partner status because they were getting rid of the silver, and it was like, oh yeah, you just get your CCDE as well. So I had that, and then it was like, all right, you never got it, like try it in February. So that was 2 attempts that, you know, I shouldn't even have like been anywhere near that thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so sorry, the question. So that covers the sleep and preparation. Give yourself enough time to actually prepare, because I think it's impossible to, unless you're like double CCIE, like living this stuff like Nick was and all that. I think he passed in about 8 months worth of study, but he still held off. He had an opportunity to attempt it at 5 or 6 months, and he held off because he didn't even feel like it was a sensible thing to do it after that time. So that's kind of like, and then sleeping, like, it's kind of obvious now, but that's no good. But when you're in the zone and you think you're in the zone and you're like, that's how I'm going to do it. It's not the right way to do it. So get sleep, get rest, not in the week leading up. In your life, get adequate rest and sleep and exercise and try to eat well and stuff. I'm preaching, but I just think that's based on my experience. If I'd done that and held off longer, then I would have probably passed it sooner. So and had different circumstances, but you know, that's. So what else? So scenarios, like you've got the scenario list. I actually put that together, but you know, they're not all my scenarios. But that was kind of when I was coordinating the meetings and trying to get people to attend every week. And then in the end, Igor and I, that scenario, so whatever state that you received that scenario list from me, Mike, that was like how we spaced out. I think I put dates and stuff against it.
Yep.
So that's how we kind of spaced it out. And then in the week, and we repeated the scenarios, not all of them, but the ones that we felt. I think we went through and it's funny because they don't have any questions. Yeah. But Igor and I, in that 9 months, we must have went through definitive MPLS network designs. I think we went through all 4 scenarios twice, and it was I think what's the crazy, massive, humongous one?
Oh jeez. Yeah,
I think we went.
Talking about. I think we went through.
I think we went through that one again an additional time. So, in the final week, leading up to it. So, so that was scenarios, and then the other ones we didn't go through all of the ones with the answers together, but we went through some of them because we were dedicating a lot of time to labbing. But then in the final week of that attempt, because Igor wasn't like attempting the exam at that one, he held off. But he like jumped. I don't think we'd really done anything that week together. But like, I mean, by that stage, all the work had been done, and it was really just when you get to that stage, it's fine tuning, really. I would say don't go anywhere. Like, it's easy to say, but don't go hardcore studying right up until the day before. I mean, I couldn't do that because I actually have to travel to London to sit the exam, which is like you know, it's only an hour flight, but it's actually like an all day like journey kind of thing because you need to get to the airport, and so it's actually like a 5-hour journey really, even though it's actually only an hour's flight. So
And you're near Edinburgh? Is that where you're at?
Yeah, Edinburgh. Yeah,
Okay.
right outside.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
don't like I would say, even if like you've got a test centre on your doorstep, take the day before just to chill out, and if there's stuff that you want to just like glance your eyes over, do that. But I wouldn't sit there like going, oh, I don't know this about IS to IS, or I really need to like get this nailed. It's pointless. It's too late.
Yeah.
If you want to quickly glance over something, that's one thing. But if you're not going to learn it.
Yeah, there's certain things that get that just do not stay in my head, like comparing the 4 different MLDP, next gen MLDP approaches, as far as contrasting details. I've got like a list of maybe 20 slides that I'm kind of assembling on my own that are just like things that don't stick well that I need to just keep looking at.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of where I'm going to be is just those contrast type slides, so that I can kind of just keep pounding it in my head. And I'm about halfway towards building that, but it's probably going to be 15 to 20 slides ripped out of Cisco Live stuff that are just things that I keep finding I need to go back to and keep looking at because they keep coming up. And so it's funny, we kind of planned we've planned a bunch of sessions this week, but now we have one for Tuesday morning, Eastern time, so Tuesday afternoon for David, and we're just going to get on and shoot the breeze and calm each other down. But yeah, the plan's to hopefully be done with all the scenario reviews individually by Saturday, Sunday, Monday, just spot check and stuff like that. Get some good sleep all weekend, and then hopefully really get good sleep on Tuesday night, which easier said than done, I suppose.
By the way, can you just share those because I have a shitload of these slides where I think I need to revisit. Will be nice to know which ones are yours, so I can more or less maybe we imagine something, at least in MLDP and all that crap we sure do. Because when you get to MLDP, PIM, RSVPT and stuff, and then they get a little bit esoteric with all this stuff of multicast over the WAN, then immediately I turn into a potato. Yes.
Yeah. Let me take a look at that for you, man. I'll try and put that together and have it out tomorrow. So just kind of like a quick hit on it's certainly. DMVPN, contrasting the different scales available and what the limitations are with each combo of IGP versus phase and all that good stuff. And there's a pretty good slide in one of the DMVPN sessions that talks to that. And I've done a lot of DMVPN with customers, but never taking like a really objective look at, why do we do this? And I feel like that's what this exam's all about, is why are you picking this, not that? And why does this make sense in that context? So I need to just go through and certainly do this for me. And it's fun, right? I mean, it's almost like the act of putting that in a chart helps kind of sort of commit it to memory, or at least, keep it in the back of your mind, kind of give you that visual picture that you can hopefully recall a little bit better than if you hadn't done it. So that's kind of why I'm doing it. But yeah, I'll send that out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think like with the DM, I've managed to get my PC sorted now, so hi.
Nice.
Yeah.
Let's go, man.
Yo, what's up?
2 hours into the conversation, but there you go. So I think with the DM VPN stuff, again, I'm not really going to be able to give you any advice on that. It's just like being blunt, learn it. It's I think like there's stuff like there is common stuff. For example, like OS, if you run OSPF, there's like you take it right back down to the fundamentals and you understand what impact the underlay has on the overlay and what impact the overlay has on the underlay with like DMVPN phase 1, 2, 3, and then you've got like what routing protocol do I run in the so what's the advantage of running IBGP versus EIGRP versus OSPF, or what is the disadvantage? So the disadvantage of OSPF is, where do you summarize? Where do you put your OSPF area zero boundary and all that good stuff, which I'm sure that you've studied to death. And then versus EIGRP, where you can summarize every site, because you can summarize the routes, whereas, and then you have to look at it from, right, so if there's an issue on like the overlay routing protocol at one site or one point of the network, how does it impact the rest of the network still continuing to operate, or how, so you get it, like, you just got to go through the motion, and that's all the stuff that I went through, not only with Igor but with the guys that, every week that's the sort of stuff we were talking about. So if you run OSPF and what are the different places that you could make the area zero at in DMVPN, and then you mark them out with a demarcation line, and you say, right, if I make it there, like, so that might be like the hub routers, what's the impact of the rest of the network? The rest of the network is one big area. So if you make area zero north of your border routers, and then if you say, and what's the thing with that, is like, well, that's where SPF runs, and how do you, I don't know, how do you differentiate going over one path over the other, etc. And then if you move it down to the site level, what's the challenge there? Well, you've got a different area for every site. You've got thousands of sites. How do you manage that? Whereas with EIGRP, you can move that demarcation. Make it a stub site, advertise, summaries, blah blah blah. So that's kind of like techie stuff, and then IBGP and all the dynamic neighbour stuff. But if you've done DMVPN and rolled out IBGP or familiar with IWAN and stuff like that, that's what all that good stuff is kind of focused on. So
that's the tough parts. Kind of breaking out of the architectures and getting back to the constituent technologies for a Cisco guy can be a little rough, but we're hoping to make it through that.
So in regards, like, so another couple of notes as well in regard to, so I mean, I don't think there's much more to say on like the exam that I can say without, like, unless you've got specific questions. I mean, I think the main things are around strategy, or like time, highlighting approach, note-taking approach, and knowing the technology. Those are like, those are the pillars. Don't make up stories in your head. What you're being asked is what you're being asked. Time management and being able to reset your clock in your head mentally. So hopefully that helps on the exam strategy. And that's some notes. So another thing. So preparation wise, then obviously talked about the Cisco Live stuff. The other stuff that I'd done was, before my first attempt, actually, I went over to Orlando to Jeremy's boot camp. So it was like start studying in May, failed attempt, and then passed attempt to the written by July, and then I went to Jeremy's boot camp in October, and then sat the exam in November. So I done the in-person boot camp, and then I had a couple of repeat remote attendances on that throughout the 2 years that I was studying. So you speak to Jeremy about those arrangements about reattending, because I don't know what his policies are on it. So that was helpful, like the material, a lot of notes taken on Jeremy's stuff, on his actual like slides that he sends you, but also I've got like an A4 like paper pad full of stuff as well, of my own notes, not only from Jeremy's course but from literally taking notes whilst watching the Cisco live sessions as well. I didn't my main investment was in Jeremy's stuff. I've also invested in INE All Access Pass, sat like the CCIE, well, not sat it, but in the All Access Pass, you get the CCIE Service Provider Advanced Technologies courses, so version 3 exam, version 4 exam. Watched the full course on my commute. I actually put it on my phone and played it through my car speakers and listened to that Advanced Technologies version 4 twice, I think.
That's how I did my route switch. My route switch was the ATC course blasting in my ears every commute into the city, out of the city. I don't think I watched. I think I might have watched 2 or 3 hours of the 50 hours worth of video, and the rest I listened to multiple times. So
yeah. So All Access Pass lived in the service provider Advanced Technologies version 4 course. But the INE stuff you can't download. So say when I was doing the labs and stuff, all the INE stuff's online now, I think, unless you buy the course. But the older versions of the labs and that, you can download the PDFs. So version 3 of the CCIE service provider, you can download the PDFs of the lab config guides and stuff. So I didn't spend loads of time, but I downloaded them and just for solidifying, so if I was doing something crazy like RSVP with static routes or something, I would use that as a reference. But INE, it was more like watching their videos and stuff, and they've got some quite good stuff around Inter-ES and Unified MPLS and all that. And they've also got the CCDE scenarios, so I used those as well. Safari books, I'm sure you've all got a subscription to that. Basically, if I was stuck on a subject, I just search Safari books and I don't actually think I've got a definitive. I added them to my playlist. I was gonna log in and show you how I dealt with definitive MPLS and maybe put some. Hang on a second, if I can remember how to log in. Hang on. Am I at the right Safari books? That's funny. I went to safari.com and it's taken to me popular African destinations. Shows how long it is since I've been I've actually always got it logged in on my phone, so.
I use the heck out of that app. It's great now that they've migrated to this new app in the last year and a half or so.
Let me see if I can remember my password. Here we go. So I'll share this. Definitive MPLS network designs. The bane of my life for God knows how long. Right. Let me just. Well, it even gives me the option to continue reading. Right. Let me just share this. I'll show you what I was doing, highlighting these.
Here, I'll give you the. You get the ball.
Yeah, so here, this is the kind of thing. So this is the kind of thing I was working through with Igor, right? So we would I'll show you quickly how we approach this. So we would jump on a WebEx and basically start here, and he would take I've got some notes, but they're on my Mac, so I don't have them with me, but we would read it the night before, and the reason that we done it the night before was so that we could both work on our fast reading and the fact that we have to do it. But basically, you'll see like how I'm like highlighting words here, whereas what I would have done in the past is been like that, or you know, that kind of thing, and then I'd do it down here, and I'd be like, oh yeah, that's important too. But see, like, you know, just highlighting the words. Undo that highlight. Highlighting the words, so I'd be like multi-service network, IPv4 and LTE-VPN, IPv6 internet, and it'd be like, and I'd tie that together as like they want to put a multi-service core in it's got IPv4 and LTE-VPN, and they're looking to introduce IPv6 internet. Then skim down. That's how quickly. Whereas what I would do before, I would be like, to that end, TK evolved its packet core to a nationwide multi-service, and I'd read it like that, and that's the wrong way to read it. Like, that's what burns your time.
Yeah, you're looking for anchor words, right? You're looking for things that you can highlight real quick, so that when somebody asks you, hey, you know, now let's do an addressing problem, you can bounce up and say, I know exactly where that's at, and then read it. Like,
TK owns fiber. All SDH links are protected. Like, so then you're automatically thinking like, you know, about like the BFD or
and stuff like that.
Failing over, yeah. So, and that's it. So you like skim it really quickly. I don't need to know about all this stuff or speeds and feeds. That's another thing that I just ignore. Like, well, not ignore, but you know, just kind of tuck away to the back of your head. But you see, like, the other thing, like, and this sounds crazy, right, but the sort of thing I used to get bothered about in my first attempt, when I was highlighting, I'd be like, right, I want to highlight this word, and I'd go like that. Oh, I've not highlighted the Y. That all takes time. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's like real life attention to detail, OCD, making sure the customer gets absolutely every single thing that they need, and that's not what you need to do. Like, and you'll see in here, like, there's no, the O isn't highlighted, and the S isn't highlighted, and then, like, that's just because, like, I got to the stage where it's like, oh, that word's interesting, do that. Don't care if it's highlighted the whole word. Like, so, if you're a bit that way inclined, which, you know, I was, and I am in my professional life, away from like CCDE land. You know, when I used to prep some of my presentations and stuff for the sessions on the Saturday and Sunday, Nick always used to like wind me up because all my diagrams are like symmetrical, like, so no routers would be like on a different level or that, like, and I was like, well, you know, I think that's a good quality.
You take pride in your work. It's okay, Malcolm.
I used to get teased. I used to get bullied. That's why I failed it the first few times. So, but no, it's so yeah. That's just to kind of give you an idea. And then what we would do is we'd be like, so you know, like there's always in these things like we would have notes, and it'd be like this is the part that we would focus on here. So the first intro, that literally take like half a minute. And then we'd be like, right, what notes did you have on the network? I'd be like, right, well, they had DWDM, they had various POPs, they had like 6 level 1 POPs, 50 level 2 POPs, and then we'd be like, right, what does a level 2 POP, what does level 1 POPs provide transit? They've got unprotected links, and we knew that like further down here they had like detailed diagrams of like the level 1 and the level 2 POPs. So we would like go down all this, skim down this telephony infrastructure. I didn't like focus on, I wonder how the telephony infrastructure works. Just like, it's like almost like a content network that provides telephony.
There is one.
Move on. There's another I that hasn't been highlighted, and there's a T as well that hasn't been highlighted. Jeez, I need to have now I've passed the exam, I need to go and like update all this. But so then it gets into the POP infrastructure, and you see this is all just like nonsense that's not relevant to why they made decisions on like the different POPs.
Yeah.
Like, so skim over that, like multi-service PE routers. We didn't do it this fast, but this is kind of like the pace that we were moving at, and this is where like you know, in my first attempts, it was like humming and hawing and like, yeah, but I wonder about like if they maybe like, no, just understand what's happening and then move on to the next thing. And then here with the, you know, we would sometimes like zoom into some of the diagrams and kind of like say, well, you know, I don't really understand what they're saying in the text, and then it's like, oh, right, so that's layer 2, they're just like layer 2 switches, and that means that we need to think about potentially BFD. So you might get like, and again, just making it up, like, but you'll see like a layer 2 switch in there, and it'll be like confusing when you're in the middle of the exam. So it would be like, from, like, say there was a router falling off like here, like, and then it went through this DSLAM and layer 2 switching, like, oh, well, there's a layer 2 path in there, so in order to peer PE to CE, like, say this was the PE, this way, then you need BFD. But it might say something like, these ones are connected directly, so I know they're not CE and PE, but you get the idea. So it might be like, do you use, like, on the edge devices? So let's say this was DSLAM edge, and this is edge devices for enterprise services, and it said, so you've got edge devices for DSLAM-based services or whatever. Would you use BFD, or what would you do to ensure, like, loss of signal was propagated when the switch fails? And you're like, well, I would use BFD. But if it was talking about these routers here, you wouldn't, because they're directly connected. But when all this crazy stuff's going on in the diagram and you're in the middle of a scenario and you just get an option and you see BFD, you're like, oh yeah, BFD will fix that. But it's actually talking about a different layer 2 path, where, like, this is a direct, like, layer 3 path where ports connected directly to each other, so you wouldn't need BFD there, for example. So that's the kind of stuff that we, like, that we spoke about every week. And made, it should be better, should zoom in, there we go. And then we talked about all this, like, so we didn't spend like hours and hours and hours working out how dial-in access. I was just like, yeah, I've done a bit of that in the past, so this is how I think it works. Yeah. And then we got down to, like, so then the multicast section, so this is all still technical, and then there's a bit down here, QoS. So this is all just still the introduction, but what I would say is, like, when you're preparing for the amount of documentation that you're going to get in a scenario, I would probably say it's about down to, there's normally like a bit that states out the requirements. Have I passed that? So it gives like an overview in each of these chapters. It's like, gives an overview of the environment and the customer, and then it's like tells you what they're actually trying to achieve. I don't know if you've observed that in here, but let me go to a different chapter, see if it's in there.
Yeah, this is the big one. These are huge.
I think it takes a minute for the highlighting to appear. But yeah, so it goes on about like the portfolio, the POP structure. This is all still high level. So you'll see, like, actually this one I've even more scarcely highlighted. So as we were getting more and more experienced at, like, going through not each scenario as in we knew them, but, like, you know, this amount of text, we were highlighting less and less. But still, I think we were. So anyway, this is all going over like the global network architecture. I think it's in a little bit that it gets to a point where this is almost like an architectural design at this point. Yep. And then it gives you, so here, when you get to these design objectives, right? So we got to down to here, and this is what we kind of skimmed over. And then see past this part, in each section, it's detailed stuff. So this, like, goes into like the detailed stuff. So we would maybe talk about, like, but a lot of this, none of this is highlighted because it's a bit like nothing to see here. we use BGP, we use multi-service routers, or split them out as PEs or whatever, and that's all like connectivity between regions. So we're like, oh yeah, we want to talk about inter-AS option B, filtering, all that kind of stuff, how it works between regions and all that. And these were the sorts of things we were highlighting just to, yeah, so yeah. But like what I guess I'm saying is, like, we went through the whole scenarios, excuse me, but see, when you got down to like right down to the bottom, all this config stuff, we would highlight the odd thing here and there, but we wouldn't spend loads of time on it. And even with QoS and like MPLS-TE, well, actually, MPLS-TE we spent quite a lot of time talking about, but it wasn't like the whole section of the design. It was like, there's quite a bit highlighted in this part, MPLS-TE design. So we highlighted what we thought was pertinent, and then as it goes through the scenario, like, less and less, because this level of stuff is like massively overkill. So we covered some of it, but like this level of detail. But we done all this stuff. Is again, this is what I think like got me over the line, because we done all this. Like, we set up MPLS-TE tunnels. We used auto route announce, and can't even remember what the other things are. But yeah, like via ran OSPF over the tunnels and all that kind of thing. Yeah. So anyway, I'll not dwell too much more on that, but that was just to give you an idea, like what we've done, how we approached the Safari stuff.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. I think that's probably a good exercise for us all to, kind of take on, is to really look at that overview, all the way down to the requirements section, and just get used to kind of picking through that and picking out the useful stuff. It's funny you mentioned the getting anal about the highlighting and making sure you highlight because I got to tell you, sometimes I distract myself with like, oh, hey, I really missed this part of this sentence. I should, and what I really need to be doing, and what I'm trying to convince myself to do, is just plop in enough highlighting that it draws my eye to, okay, this is an anchor, and there was something of use in this vicinity. Go get it, or just kind of jog the memory, so that my eye, when I go back for the info, just rests on the good stuff,
Yeah, so the worst one is like when you miss a character off the start, and then you highlight a word that you didn't mean to highlight. That's just that's like
now you gotta go back, and you're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. But nah, in all seriousness, it's like, forget it, man. Just like, save it for work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, this is really good stuff, Malcolm.
So
really good stuff, man.
Oh, if any other. So the other thing is, like, I didn't just do that with definitive MPLS book. I done it with every book. After I felt like I had kind of like mastered the art of highlighting single words in that and tying them together, I done it with every book that I read.
Okay.
On Safari, and then also the INE scenarios as well.
Yeah.
Because you have PDFs.
Yeah, those were. We went through those as a group, and those were interesting. So you could tell they haven't been touched in a long time.
Yeah. So, like, I'm conscious I was talking for quite a long time there. So, is there any other stuff, guys, that you want to ask? I mean, I'm fine for time, as I say. I'm just in a hotel room, so it's not really an issue. If you've got anything else that you want to ask.
No, I think you've covered a lot of the stuff that we were all hoping to get out of this. I know it was pretty open ended. But at this point, I've had a couple of great discussions, with yourself and with Nick this week, and certainly have gotten plenty of tips from Jeremy over the last couple of weeks to just kind of help keep things in perspective and bring me back to why we're here, right? We're not here to become CCIEs and 5 different tracks. We're here to to have good design wits and instincts about us. And so I think it's been really good to talk to you and kind of see how that process worked for you. And certainly, you know, looking over some of the stuff that you gave me here to think about, you know, especially around the time management side of things is really helpful. It's comforting in a way, because in my internal, you know, voice was telling me I needed to not do drawings because I suck at them. And, you know, I tried doing them on my first couple of CCIE attempts and realized I brought all these colored pencils for nothing. You know, it used to be you could draw things with colored pencils on the CCIE route switch, and man, what a waste of time. It was just a complete waste. And
I mean, I think the exercise of going through like the INE, not the INE, the definitive MPLS. I mean, that's not like the only book, but it's definitely the best book for scenarios, the best book for scenarios. And I think when you get into that habit where you combine like the faster reading with like, right, I've read that fast and I've read it fast and it makes sense to an extent, but I can't remember what that pop looked like, and then you scroll back up to the pop. That can be almost like hard codes, not having to like draw that pop out on a piece of paper, because like it's like navigating between what something says in text to what something looks like in reality. And I would say like look at the diagrams properly. Don't just look at it like, oh, it's because it might have something in it that isn't in the text, or clarifies something in the text. So don't be like, oh, it's a diagram so I can see how the architecture looks and high level stuff. Be like, right, the diagram's there for a reason. And it might tell you nothing, or it might tell you something, but just be mindful that, you know, all the information that you're provided is provided in order to lead you towards the right answer. So it could be in any part of the documentation.
That's good to know. Good to know. Yeah, I do have a habit of kind of skimming those real quick, but you know, I'll make sure on the first pass that I try to glean a little bit more from them, and maybe even, you know, I've spent the last week training myself not to worry about the numbers they keep giving you. You know, X number of employees and X number of remote sites and this, that, and the other thing, and just kind of just take away like a general feel for the lay of the land, you know, where things are, and know that I can always come back for it if they need it for a calculation, or if they need it for, you know, some evaluation of cost or whatever. But no, this has been really good, Malcolm, and totally appreciate this, man. I'm not going to be in Orlando. Are you going to be there in Orlando?
No, I'm not this year. I'm over in St. Louis because I'm like working on kind of like a big project and big data center migration, and it's kind of coming to a head. So it just didn't work this year. But I'm hoping to it'll either be Cisco Live Europe or US next year. But I've never been, so I want to go next year definitely. So if it's the US, I'll probably end up extending it to a family holiday after or something. So
and San Diego's beautiful, so highly recommend that for you know. Yeah, it's a fantastic place. So
you're just trying to drag him to US. That's unfair. Go to the one in Europe.
What about both?
Hey, man.
That's funny. Like my wife started talking about our next holiday, and she was like, "When's our next holiday?" And I was like, "Well, Cisco, or where do you want to go on holiday next?" And I was like, "Well, Cisco Live's in Barcelona in February." So she wasn't that impressed, but there you go. It was like, the only other thing on the last thing on the time, which is like, and well, two things to probably round it off then, guys, is like the other tip I would say is like, see if like you'll get an answer and you know that it's wrong because you go to the next question, or you're like, there's a high possibility that might happen. Just move on. Don't let it like rule you, because again, I was like, I've got that wrong. I knew immediately, like, I got it wrong. It's like they click next, and the majority of the time you'll not know one way or another, unless you're pretty confident. And even if you're pretty confident you got it right, you might not have. So, but like, there might be a time where you think, like, I got that wrong, and if you got it wrong, you got it wrong. Move on to the next question. And the other thing was, on my very last question of the last scenario, I had like 2 minutes left to answer it, and I'm 99.999% sure I got it correct. And I had like, I had the answer correct, say like with a minute to go, and what I done is like, I'll just check that one thing in that document, and then I tried to find the document. That probably took about 15 seconds. Then I looked for the part in the document, and I read that for like 20 seconds, and I was like, oh no, how long's left? And I tried to minimize all these windows, and I didn't manage to press end on the exam. But the selection, the question that I answered, I was almost, like, I'm 99% sure. And after the exam, I was like, then I started going into panic mode. I was like, oh, that's a question that I never answered. So that, like, but like, I ended up passing. So I guess the moral of the story is, like, that's what I was saying. Try and remove all emotion, like, from the whole exam, because you're either going to be get your knickers in a twist in the exam, or you're going to be like worrying about it after it, and there's no point. It's just an exam at the end of the day, and it doesn't reflect how capable you are in, like, doing your job and stuff like that as well. So, and there's a reason that there's only about 400 people globally who have got this thing, right? Yeah. Since 2007. So over like 10 years, 11 years, there's about 400 people, and that's unofficial numbers, but that's what that's kind of like, might be less than that, but that's kind of like the ballpark. So yeah, that would be my closing words on it.
Well, thank you, Malcolm. Hopefully we'll have 3 more sometime in the next year or so.
Got faith in you guys, so just do your thing. Don't stress before the exam. You've put the work in, and just go and do it.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to stop the recording. And thanks again for your time. I owe you a beer, and we will meet in person so I can buy you that